Hey, what's up? This is Maddie Montgomery from the band For Today, and I'm hanging out with Rob on Punkvideosrock.
If you were initially following your first influence in music, what kind of rapper would you be?
How'd you know my first influence in music?
I heard it over there somewhere.
Okay. I don't know, man. You know, I always thought maybe not guys that rapped about political stuff, but
Right.
dudes that had a political conscience were cool. You know, I looked up to Tupac a lot, and you know, not to say that he was always rapping about political issues,
Yeah.
but he was a guy that was using his influence to help bring about change. I don't know. I thought that was a cool thing. I feel like I like to think if I was a rapper that I might have been able to pull that off, you know?
Nice. And the way that you influence your fans on the music today, do you think that would still be possible with rapping? I know that's different on that genre.
Maybe. I guess the world will never know.
Maybe there'll be another album coming soon with maybe some
man.
rap
I'll
music.
drop my mixtape. It's going to be fire. Y'all check it out.
So let's jump into that new record. You've been doing a number of records already, maybe 5, 6,
Yeah, 6.
so far.
Yeah.
How have you grown as far as your delivery for this record, as opposed to your first record?
I mean, I think if you were to play our first record versus Wake, the new album, back to back, you might not believe it's the same band. I mean, everything from lyrics to vocal performance to the music that we wrote to production quality, everything about it is totally different. You know, I think really more than anything, I think that we kind of stopped looking around at what kind of bands we wanted to sound like, and we want to do a part like this and a part like that, and take this from this band and this from that band, and more we kind of asked ourselves, what's inside of us to create, what is it that we are going to love, that we're going to be proud of. And so instead of trying to be relevant and kind of picking pieces from a bunch of other bands, we more than ever before, really, on this last album, I feel like we kind of just said, forget about all that. Let's just be authentic and just write what's in our heart.
So what was it like being authentic in the studio? Was it a lot harder for you guys? I mean, tell me that experience.
Yeah, man. Writing this album in the studio was a difficult thing. It was real emotionally draining. It took a lot of focus. It's it's really easy. You can just kind of crap out, or you can just hammer out like random riffs, without thought, without thinking, or you could just write sort of cliche, generic lyrics over and over again without any thought. But this time we were like, let's get away from that and be really honest and really bare our souls. And so this album, it was really a vulnerable time, and some of the stuff that I wrote about was things that I don't talk about publicly very often, things like depression or abandonment or suicide, and so those things, when I was writing about it, I kind of had to get into an emotional state that was difficult to be in, but we're hoping that this album is able to help people, so it'll all be worth it.
Why do you think this album was the one to open up like that?
It could be any number of reasons, man. We maybe just because we're getting old and we just don't care anymore.
That old age is kicking in.
yeah. We're to the point where we're creative enough that if the band fell apart tomorrow and people stopped caring and we didn't need to do this, or we couldn't keep doing this, so we'd find a way to make a living, and it's fine. We'd be okay. Right. So we're not dependent on the band anymore. We're just it's just fun, man. We figured, well, if we're gonna spend the time and invest ourselves enough to release another album, let's make it something that we're proud of, something that we're genuinely excited about. Right. Yeah.
Now, can you elaborate on something that I saw you guys posted on your Facebook in a reply comment? You said that this record is more gospel driven. What exactly did you mean by that?
I think that more than ever before, in the past when we were writing albums, I would kind of hide behind what I wanted my faith to be. I would present myself as the man that I want to be, instead of maybe the man that I am. And what I mean is, I'll give you an example. We wrote a song called Fearless. It's one of our most popular songs. People like it a lot. And in that song, we sing, "We are fearless." But if I'm honest, if I'm honest with our fans, if I'm honest with you, the truth is I'm not always fearless. Yeah. Sometimes I get intimidated, man. Sometimes I'm presented with an opportunity to to do the work of God, and I miss it because I'm worried about people's opinions of me, or I'm worried about my social status, or whatever. I don't want to look silly, and sometimes I get afraid. Sometimes I am fearful, and so on this album we said, man, let's be real, and the reality of the gospel. The first reality of the gospel is that we all need help, and so we wrote these songs with the heart to be honest about kind of where we stand and where we're at, and that man, God has done amazing things in our lives, but I still need help. It's I can't stand on my own 2 feet today any more than I could 10 years ago when I got saved, man. I'm in desperate need of the grace of God, in every moment of every hour of every day of my life. And so I didn't want to paint this unrealistic picture of what it means to be a Christian, because I love Fearless. It's a fun song to sing, right? But the reality is, man, that's not really you. That's not really me, man. And so we sing that song and we have a great time. But this album, Wake, is I think coming from a more gospel conscious place than ever before, to where we're willing to be authentic and to be real and to be vulnerable about who we are, right, and what God has really done in our lives.
Now expressing your faith. We can all be believers, but it's not that easy to open up to a stranger, or to bring someone in closer to God. How are you able to, or how did you learn to start doing that? Because now it just comes natural to you, obviously. But I'm sure it wasn't like that on day one.
No, it wasn't, man. There's no method. It's not like I read a book one day and said, okay, now I get it. Right. I just started grabbing people and just talking to them, man. One of the things that I do most commonly is I'll just ask them, hey, what do you think about Jesus? And just listen to what they have to say, And some people say, man, he's my savior. I love him. He changed my life. And some people say, I hate all that church stuff and I don't want anything to do with it. And, regardless of what their answer is, it opens up a dialogue where we can share our hearts with each other, man. And hopefully we can become better off because of it, And so I think that everybody out there, they think I have so much to say about Jesus. But, the reality is, you don't have to have all the answers or have all the Bible verses memorized. You just have to be willing to make Jesus the center of a conversation, and if we say, hey man, let's talk about Jesus, what do you think about him? You just listen to somebody. It's going to open up a dialogue that could potentially save somebody's life.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true. Now you keep mentioning how you've been saved. Do you mind talking a little bit about that?
Yeah, man. Well, I was raised in a Christian home, sort of a real sort of dead, hypocritical, empty Christian home. But I walked away from faith and church, Christianity, when I was 15 or 16, and then went off to college and was studying other religions, studying philosophy, and just wanted to find truth. I didn't care where it came from. Right. I didn't care what book I found it in. I just wanted to find what was true. And I got to a point in my life, because of some circumstances that were out of my control, where as much as I sort of valued my intellectual capabilities, my ability to argue, my ability to reason, as much as I valued those things, I realized that can only take me so far, because what is logical is not always what is right. Sometimes your head disagrees with your heart, and what are we going to do in that situation? And so, man, I felt like my life was falling apart, being torn in two different directions, and I didn't know what to do or which way to go. And I got so desperate that I did something really crazy, and I fell down on my knees and I said, God, if you're real, if you're out there, if you can hear me, I need to know that you're I need to know what to do. And man, within a half an hour, immediately, God began to break into my life supernaturally and begin to just reveal himself to me. And really over the course of the next 5 or 6 weeks, day in and day out, it was just like this constant just wave after wave of revelation, a wave after wave of love, and God began to show me the reality of his existence and the reality of his love for me. And as much as I didn't really know how to respond to that, I didn't really know what to do with that, and so
sure you were overwhelmed as well.
Yeah, and learning how to respond to God's love, that's been the process of my life. I'm still in that process. Yeah. But that's when I first experienced it, or at least that's when I first acknowledged it, and my life has never been the same, man.
Do you see more people opening up more about religion nowadays, or do you still see the same amount of crowd?
The interesting thing is when we first started out, people were so freaked out by us talking about Jesus that they didn't know what to do. But I feel like now, even people who don't maybe believe in Jesus or don't agree with us, they at least kind of know to expect it from us. Right. You know what I mean? And so it's not, they'll just kind of say, oh, okay, I don't really believe in that, and we have to respect that, obviously. And so I don't know how much has changed in the scene as a whole, or if it's just that people kind of know what to expect. When 40 days around, somebody's going to talk to you about Jesus. Right. You know what I mean? So I don't know if how much of it is that the whole scene has changed, or they talk about Jesus less or more. I don't know. I just I think that now word has gotten out that that's kind of what we do, and so people come either excited to talk about Jesus, or they've already decided that they're going to avoid that conversation like the plague,
But it's cool that they're still, willing to be a fan of the music.
Yeah, man. And that's the thing that I think is a really weird thing that I really kind of hate in our scene, is that we've drawn this line where, that's a Christian band, only Christians listen to that band, and other people can listen to these other bands. And I think that's ridiculous, man. I think people, if they like the music and they think the shows are fun, they should come out, man. Like, I'm not going to be mad at you if you're Jewish or an atheist or agnostic. At the end of the day, man, like, that's your business, and I want to share what I found in my life, this hope that I found. And if you don't care, or you don't want to follow what I follow, like, then it's out of my hands. I still love you and still want to hang out with you and still want you to come to shows and party with us, So, yeah, man, I love that we have diverse fans, and that we have fans that are, Democrats and Republicans and atheists, agnostics.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, and we have all different types of people that follow the music and follow the band, and I really do like that.
Now, and on top of that, how difficult or how much easier do you feel that it is, getting accepted at certain venues or certain record labels, or, events that you do, knowing that you are a Christian or a Christian band?
It doesn't help as much as it used to. I don't know how much it helped a little bit. To be honest, man, when we started, it was so hot to be a Christian band that bands would pretend to be, bands who weren't Christians would fake Christianity so that they could get on a Christian label and play all the big Christian festivals and all this stuff. That is not the case anymore. It's cost us a lot, man, to be steadfast in our faith. There have been bands that have refused to tour with us because we talk about Jesus from stage, and there have been, to that extent. Yeah, I mean, there's been record labels and managers that have said, I don't want to work with this band because they open up about their faith. But at the end of the day, man, if that's the worst that happens, then praise God, man. I've got brothers and sisters on the other side of the world getting their heads cut off with pocket knives for believing in Jesus. That's true. And if people won't let us on a tour with their band, like, that's a small price to pay, man. Jesus, he's so worth it.
That's true. And let's jump into that, the new record label signing that you guys did prior to this record, Nuclear Blast. That's a big deal.
Yeah, man, they're an amazing label. We kind of were blown away that they even knew who we were. So we were so psyched to get the offer.
You guys are making waves out there.
Yeah, we're trying, man.
How did that even come about, though?
Well, our manager was in their office actually talking about other stuff, other bands they were working with, and the owner of the label said, "Hey, you work with For Today, right? They're one of my favorite American bands." He said, "I think Immortal is maybe the greatest metalcore album ever put out," which those are his words, not mine. Wow. But he stood up in the middle of his office in front of his whole staff and started singing Fearless to our manager. He was like, "I love that band, man. I want to work with them." So he sent an offer for this new album that we were actually in the studio recording at that time. So we got an offer from Nuclear Blast, like, okay, sweet, let's do that. Wow. Yeah, man.
Out of this record, Wake, what has been the biggest song that you guys have seen or noticed the fans really pay attention to?
I think it could be a coin toss between Broken Lens and Bitter Roots. Okay. Those are my two favorite songs on the album. Bitter Roots is real different. It's actually mostly singing in that song. It's a real sort of laid back song. And Broken Lens is just high energy, high impact. It's 1,000,000 miles an hour all the way through. So those songs are very different songs from each other. They're very different songs on the album, and they're really different songs even for Today as a whole. So yeah, I think those are the two that people have been paying the most attention to.